In the flickering glow of neon lights, Luca Romano stood at the edge of the cybercafe, his heart racing with every pulse of the underground music that reverberated through the air. It was there, amidst the whirring of computers and hushed whispers of clandestine dealings, that the unthinkable unfolded before him. A street rat slouched in a corner, defiantly typing furiously at a computer terminal. Suddenly, the screen flickered, and a glitch revealed something crucial: his family's secrets, a treasure trove that lay dangerously exposed. Before he could even process it, a fight broke out nearby, sending an icy wave of dread down his spine. Chaos erupted as bodies collided. One of the combatants was a member of his father's mob. Luca's instincts kicked in, and he moved, slipping through the crowd, his eyes locking on to the girl, the hacker, whose fingers flew across the keyboard, seemingly oblivious to the storm brewing around her. Wait, before the next revelation unfolds, if this story has already captured your heart, let us know where you're following from. To ensure you don't miss unexpected twists, emotional reconciliations, or new beginnings, subscribe and stay connected. Now, back to the story. Zara Chen had always been the type determined to carve out her own identity. From her early days in a broken home, she learned that survival was a game played by the ruthless. Now, as a renowned hacker for the Crimson Clique, one of the most powerful digital crime syndicates in the city, she ruled her world with code, not cash. The cafe had been her refuge, a place teeming with potential information, a digital battlefield where she could slip into anonymity and let her skills loosen the grip of fate's cruel hand. As the fight escalated, Zara felt the familiar rush of adrenaline, the sweet taste of chaos. She inhaled deeply, blocking out the tension around her to laser focus on her task. A green flare of success flashed in her mind. She had secured evidence that would help her syndicate cripple the Romano Empire. It was practically poetic, a chance to strike back at the legacy of a man who had cut his son loose as though he were just another pawn in the family's game. But just as she leaned back from her screen, throwing her head back in a moment of exhilaration, she heard a deep voice slice through the noise. "Hey! You're the one who just hacked into my family's foundation. You don't know who you're messing with." Startled, Zara pivoted to find Luca standing there, a forceful presence radiating confidence from his sharp jawline to the tailored suit that hugged his athletic frame. His piercing blue eyes bore into her, cold and calculating, yet betraying a flicker of vulnerability. She couldn't help but marvel at how powerfully he commanded attention, even if he was the enemy in this battle. "Bold move, pretty boy, but you should know, leaving your secrets out in the open is a rookie mistake," she shot back, her voice steady, though her heart drummed wildly in her chest. Did she even realize she was sparring with the very heir to the empire she repeatedly vowed to dismantle? Denial flickered in her mind, but ambition clouded it, reminding her that this was just business. "You think you can just walk away from this?" Luca challenged, stepping closer, his presence heat radiating like summer sun. "You know who I am, right?" Ah, the infamous Luca Romano, heir to a legacy built on ruthlessness, doesn't scare me. Her defiant smile was her armor, but it felt thin. Beneath that bravado, an inexplicable spark flared, igniting tension that propelled their exchange into something more volatile and electric. Each retaliatory word wrapped around both their hearts, drawing them closer despite the rivalry. "What's your endgame? Power? Money?" he pressed, his confidence unnerving. "Or are you just another pawn masquerading as a queen?" Zara bristled, her fingers curling into fists at her sides. "I'm not a pawn, and you don't get to define my worth." She sensed his presence shift yet again, the air thickening between them as they stood in opposition, simmering as embers threatened to ignite. As their verbal sparring danced around the truth of who they were, Luca felt a strange compulsion to know this beautiful adversary better. In a world ruled by shadows, the connection they formed felt like a warm light, even amidst the growing chaos. Before either could process it, a sudden shout drew their attention. "Luca, get back!" His heart skipped. It was his brother, Nico, pushing through the crowd, panic etched into his features. "We need to leave, now!" Luca hesitated, caught between the pull of his family and the mesmerizing girl before him, whose eyes sparkled with fierce independence. "You should run," he urged her, though his voice wavered. This fleeting encounter had sparked something deep within him, an awareness that he couldn't shake off. "Run? You think I'm scared?" Zara shot back, her resolve as solid as steel. "This is my territory as much as it is yours." She stood her ground, refusing to take flight. And in that moment, something shifted inside Luca. The urgency in Nico's eyes fell on deaf ears. All he wanted was to unveil the beauty behind her mask of defiance. With one last lingering look, he tore away from their magnetic pull, his brother's grip forcing him back into the fray of his suffocating legacy. But as they retreated, their eyes locked for just a heartbeat longer, a silent promise sealed between two enemies scripted by fate, a connection burgeoning in a world riddled with tension and doubt. In that heated moment, as chaos erupted around them, he had lost a chance at a hidden kingdom they could build together. Days turned into weeks, but the taste of ambivalence lingered in his mind. Luca buried himself deeper in the family business, party after party, meeting after meeting, detaching himself from any weak tether he felt pulling him towards Zara. Each time he glanced through the crowded, smoke-filled rooms, her image danced on the edges of his consciousness like an insistent whisper. He ached for their encounter, haunted by a haunting longing that reshaped his reality. Zara, too, found threads of Luca haunted her quiet moments. She couldn't shake the connection, nor the impulse of those fleeting words they'd exchanged. Perhaps it was the thrill of challenge, or the sweetness of vulnerability shimmering beneath the bravado, a promise of wounds that needed healing. But night after night, she pushed it all aside, vowing to crush the very foundation that held Luca's empire together. Until the night destiny twisted their paths once more, pulling them toward a cataclysmic convergence that would either transform their lives or seal their fates in a whirlwind of heartbreak and loss. Each was a pawn in a larger game, but they'd both be willing to gamble it all. As the rain poured down in sheets, drumming against the pavement, Zara found herself seeking refuge in the same cybercafe, its neon glow offering an alluring beacon in the storm. She had thought she could drown out thoughts of Luca, but the specter of their encounter had followed her like a ghost. This time, it wasn't just a fortress of concrete she sought to dismantle, it was the walls surrounding her own heart. Wiping droplets from her brow, she entered with a steely determination. Inside, the ambiance throbbed with a mix of urgent chatter and the mechanical hum of computers querying complex codes. The familiarity soothed her, yet a restless energy surged within her veins. Tonight was not about the competition, it was about the challenge lying ahead. She had amassed enough intel from her hacking endeavors to expose vulnerabilities in the Romano Empire, a treasure trove that could topple Luca's lineage. This thought stoked her relentless ambition. As she settled at her usual terminal, her gaze drifted toward the doorway, half expecting to see him. Frustration seared through her. Why was he still lingering in her mind? She didn't need the complications of a man who represented everything she loathed. Yet, the mere thought of him lit her heart with a flicker of warmth she didn't want to acknowledge. Just then, the atmosphere shifted. The door creaked open, and Luca stepped inside, his features drawn by the rain like a canvas of darkness. He was impossibly captivating, even soaked by the storm, droplets cascading down his hair, accentuating the firmness of his jaw. A throaty murmur passed through the patrons. The heir had arrived. The chemistry from their last encounter crackled anew in the air, igniting Zara's defenses. Competing against a heart that still raced for danger was intoxicating, yet she practiced her defiance like a second skin. Determined to remain unfazed, she turned her attention back to her screen, furiously typing lines of code, though every fiber of her being felt him draw near. "Fancy meeting you here," Luca's voice rumbled as he approached, warmth infusing the chilly atmosphere, igniting an uneasy flutter in her belly. "Guess even the mighty Luca Romano has a love for overpriced coffee," Zara quipped without looking up, her fingers flicking furiously across the keyboard to feign indifference. "Not just coffee," he replied smoothly. "I'm here for the atmosphere and the chance to meet fascinating people, like hackers who think they can topple empires." Finally, tearing her eyes away from her screen, she faced him, her heartbeat quickening. "Fascinating? Is that what you call me? I'd think I'm just a thorn in your side." "More like a puzzle," he shot back, leaning closer to her table, the tension between them tightening like a coiled spring. "What do you know about puzzles?" she challenged, unwilling to back down. His eyes darkened, drawing closer still, nearly shadowing the screen between them. "More than you believe, and I'm not leaving without knowing what's behind your bravado." Zara held her ground, even as heat flooded her cheeks. "You can't just waltz in here and—" But he cut her off, a devilish grin breaking through his serious demeanor. "If you can hack into my empire, I'd call it fair trade if you let me inside your mind. You think I'm going to divulge anything about my secrets to you?" Zara shook her head, focusing harder on her screen, feeling an involuntary pull toward him. Every locked door he proposed felt dangerously inviting. "Maybe I'm not interested in your secrets. Maybe I want to know about the woman behind the screen," he said softly, his voice reverberating in her chest like the thrum of the bass from a nearby speaker. For a fraction of a second, the world around them faded into a blur. Only their words and the tension between their swirling emotions remained tangible. She saw a flicker of something genuine in his eyes. It wrenched her breath away. But before she could react, louder voices jolted her back to reality. A group of men in sharp suits filled the cafe, each adorned with expensive watches and enough power to freeze the air. Zara recognized them immediately, members of the Crimson Clique, some from her own syndicate. "Zara!" one of them called, a smug grin dancing on his lips, drawing attention. "We've been looking for you. You should know it's not wise to toy with the Roman." "You're mistaken," Luca interjected, dominance radiating from him like an unyielding flame. "She's not your pawn, and I'm not here to play games." Revealing his protective instincts sent unexpected flutters through Zara. In this moment of chaos, he was offering her something raw and alluring, a thread of alliance amidst their torn loyalties. But as swiftly as it ignited, her doubts crept back, knitting her heart shut. She was not ready to trust the man poised to become her enemy once more. "You need to leave, now," one of her colleagues urged, glancing back at the looming threat. "We can't risk a war breaking out over this." Zara felt the ground beneath her begin to tremble with the danger of the moment. Luca's eyes narrowed, assessing the incomplete canvas of her world. If only he could understand the strings tied around her heart, ensnaring her movements. "I'll go on my own terms. You don't get to dictate my path," Zara declared, willing herself to remain steadfast, even as Luca stepped closer, determination pulsing like electricity. "I'd rather be a liar than a pawn," Luca said, fingers brushing over her forearm, warming the cool air between them. "And you're more than that, Zara. Let's rewrite the rules." Tension brewed within her chest, a soft echo of the identity she had worked so hard to forge. Instead of retreating, she leaned closer toward Luca, letting the heat of their connection flood her with uncertainty and thrill. "And what if your father's empire held the keys to all of our fates?" His expression softened, revealing the vulnerability that belied the power he wielded. "Then let's take those keys and decide our destinies together." But before any answer could break free from her lips, her colleagues encroached, forcing her to choose between Luca and her sworn loyalty. With a final, fleeting glance, she summoned her courage. "I won't betray my family, not after everything." And just like that, the door to possibility slammed shut. The grip of duty swallowed her alive, yet Luca's gaze burned a lasting imprint across her soul, a reminder of what this dance could have been. The cafe buzzed with tension. Her heart raced louder than the rain outside, and as the night unfolded, she made a silent vow to herself. There would be no more distractions. Tomorrow, they would plot against Luca's empire, one line of code at a time, even if it meant shoving away the shadows of desire that lingered in her heart. Yet the truth loomed ever closer. No matter how fiercely she tried to sever their connection, the deeper truth remained that the soul you must confront is often the one you fear losing the most. And in a world driven by violence and deceit, both were heading toward a precipice that might change the game forever, daring enough to embrace the darkness that danced around their tightly wound fate. With hearts locked in a battle of wills, they turned away, unsure of the coming dawn, but both knowing that the stakes were higher than ever. Luca Romano leaned against the brick wall outside the cybercafe, the rain pouring around him in torrents, as he tried to piece together the whirlwind of emotions that had erupted inside him like wildfire since his last encounter with Zara. It didn't make sense. He had always prided himself on being unyielding, on maintaining absolute control over every aspect of his life. Yet here he stood, soaked to the skin, turmoil brewing within his chest as thoughts of Zara consumed him. But she was his enemy, the hacker who toyed with his family's legacy, threatening everything he'd been taught to uphold. His father's voice echoed in his mind, warning him of betrayal, of weakness. But behind her defiance lurked a truth that haunted Luca, a truth that whispered of a life without the suffocating weight of his inheritance. "Luca," a voice pierced through the rain. It was Nico, urgency in his tone as he rushed over, shaking water from his hair. "What the hell were you doing in there? You can't just put yourself in danger like that." "Danger or opportunity," Luca mused, his eyes distant. He had felt something real between him and Zara, something that flickered dangerously close to liberation, even as it threatened his very existence. "Both," Nico replied, shifting uneasily. "We have enough problems without you playing hero to the enemy. The Crimson Clique is looking for her, and they won't stop until they get her." Luca ran a hand through his damp hair. "Maybe that's just it, Nico. Maybe I don't want to be this bulletproof legacy. Maybe I want to understand why she fights." Nico narrowed his eyes, stepping closer. "Luca, this is about survival. Your father has built an empire on blood and betrayal. You know what happens if he finds out you're playing games." "I don't care," Luca snapped, his voice raising above the roar of the storm. "I can't." He paused, wrestling with the weight of his next words. "Continue this way. I won't be a puppet." "What do you mean?" Nico's brow furrowed as he searched his brother's expression, looking for the underlying message. I think I might want to be different." The admission sat heavy between them, charged with the tension of years spent under their father's thumb. "I want to break free. It's time I chart my own course." "What? By getting close to the hacker, risking it all to destroy everything we have?" "Maybe she's complicated, Nico," he replied defensively. Maybe she's not the enemy I was trained to see. Be careful. We don't know her motives, Nico warned, frustration bubbling beneath the surface. You could be walking into a trap. Maybe it's a trap I need to step into, Luca said quietly. I can't keep running from my feelings, Nico. This is bigger than loyalty. This is about me, discovering who I truly am. Nico studied him for a long moment, concern etched into the lines of his face. You need to be careful. This could ruin everything. Luca took a step away from the cafe, feeling the weight of the rain, the weight of possibility soaking through him like a purifying ritual. The allure of Zara's fierce independence, her sharp tongue, her capacity to challenge him, it was intoxicating. They were tangled in a web of opposing forces, yet threads of mutual understanding attempted to bind them together. Let me figure this out for myself, Luca said, his voice softened, just for once. With a reluctant nod, Nico stepped back, allowing Luca to walk away into the shrouded chaos of his thoughts. Each raindrop felt like a decision made, hardening his resolve to confront the labyrinth of emotions swirling within him, all leading back to Zara, the hacker who had become his intricate puzzle. Days passed, weighty with unspoken longing and growing tension, until finally Luca found himself drawn inexplicably back to the cybercafe for the third time that week. Night had fallen, cloaking the city in shadow, and as he pushed open the door, the familiar warmth washed over him. There she was, seated in her corner, bathed in the glow of her computer screen, a fierce guardian of secrets. The sight of her caused a magnetic pull within him, like gravity untethered by the bonds of family and loyalty. Zara looked up, surprise flashing across her features as their eyes met. The air thickened between them, electric with unacknowledged possibility. He approached, heart racing both with desire and hesitation. Mind if I join you? Her brow arched, skepticism flickering across her face. Still not scared of the storm? Never been more excited by the rain, he said, hovering uncertainly, not wanting to rush this fragile moment. You're either brave or foolish, she replied, her voice teasing yet layered with intrigue. Why come back, Luca? Haven't you learned? Not everything is black and white, he stated firmly, surprised by his own conviction. You're not my enemy, Zara. I want to know you, to understand. Is that what you tell all your enemies? She shot back, the spark between them igniting anew, their playful banter sparking the tension flowing through the room. Only the ones who challenge me, he countered smoothly, leaning closer. And you've been the most intriguing challenge of all. She rolled her eyes, but he could see the hint of a smile lurking beneath her tough exterior. Intrigue doesn't equal safety, Luca. You're right, he said, sincerity tinged with determination in his voice. But I want to find a way through this. There's more at stake than our pasts. I can feel it. Zara studied him, her expression wavering between mirth and consideration. What makes you think I want to share my world with you? You're raised by privilege. I've fought for everything. We're at odds, Luca. Maybe at odds is exactly what makes it worth exploring. He took a deep breath, willing himself to be vulnerable. You're like a breath of fresh air, Zara, and maybe you could help me breathe. Tension pulsed vividly, each beat matching the racing drum of their hearts. She leaned back, folding her arms defensively, the flicker of uncertainty flashing across her eyes. I could be the end of you, you know. Then let me drown, he whispered, unable to mask the desperation spilling through him. Because I'm ready to face whatever comes next. You make me feel alive in ways I didn't think were possible. For a moment, the wall between them broke down. A flicker of intimacy igniting in the space of the universe that swirled between them. But then she hesitated again, her defenses reclaiming their territory. And what about your family? She challenged, resolute. What about the empire they've built on a mountain of bones? You don't just escape that easily, Luca. I know, he admitted, his voice lower, richer, as if the weight of reality bound them together. But I refuse to live for my father's legacy alone. There's so much I want to discover outside of it, and that requires risking everything. Zara's gaze softened for a moment, revealing glimpses of what hid beneath her collected surface. "What if the risk costs too much?" she whispered, pain threaded through the fragile edges of her voice. A silence fell between them, burdened by truths unspoken, the tension heavier than ever. "Then I'll take that cost," he said finally, reaching across the distance to take her hand, feeling the delicate pulse of uncertainty thrumming between them. "I want to team up with you, even in this perilous design we're crafting. You don't know who you're getting involved with. I know you're brilliant, passionate, and unlike anything I've ever encountered," he said urgently, staring deep into her eyes. "This isn't just about allegiance, Zara. You make me question everything I know about loyalty and power." The acknowledgement hung heavy in the air, a fragile truce forming between their two worlds, teetering on the brink of solidarity, intertwined with sparks of fear. Each moment was a silent surrender, a shared vow that the path ahead would be riddled with obstacles, but perhaps also rich with transformative potential. "All right," she conceded softly, warmth spilling into her features. "Let's do this." Luca's heart surged, embers of ambition stirring even higher. "But there are risks. We'll need to tread carefully in this turf." "Careful isn't my specialty," Zara chuckled, a spark forming between their playful camaraderie, despite the weight of uncertainty stretching across the expanse of their histories. "Then let's be reckless together," he offered, a smile breaking across his lips. Suddenly, the choices before them felt less daunting and more enticing, a pact forged in the electric air, flickering with promise. What neither of them realized was that the enemy was closer than they thought, lurking in the shadows just beyond their walls, watching and waiting for the moment the precarious truce would unravel and pull them into the chaos they both desperately sought to escape from. But the storm raging turned out to be more than a metaphor for their troubles. As they committed to this alliance rooted in daring vulnerability, unseen hands tightened around their fates. Zara's mind was racing through a million lines of code as the deadline to break into Romano's encrypted vault loomed overhead. The mission was borrowed from a world that painted her an outsider, yet here she was on the precipice of daring to shake up the very foundations of power. But fate twisted cruelly when she learned that the Crimson Clique had different plans for her. The rush of betrayal coursed through her battles, and as she raced through the rain-soaked streets, the looming threat of her past knocked on the door of her conscience. "Zara," a voice called, a member of the clique rallying behind her. "We know what you did. You think you can double-cross us and walk away?" She turned, her heart pounding as she squared her shoulders, ready to defend the ground she was standing on. "You're wrong. I have my own code, and I will not follow yours." But the figures closed in, threatening to crush the fragile alliance she had found with Luca underfoot. They wanted her back, either as a weapon pointed toward the Romano Empire, or more intricately, as a tool of destruction for both their houses. In that very moment, Zara felt the urgency coursing through her veins like liquid fire. The past and present collided, forcing her hand. She couldn't allow herself to be swept under by the storm that hung above, on the cusp of destructive consequences that could unravel everything. It was time for decisive action. Gathering her resolve, she pulled out her phone, the string of code she had composed in the depths of her memory, shadowing her intentions. If she was to save Luca from this destructive game, she had to rely on her own instincts. "Maybe we were meant to shatter, but I refuse to let this be the end," she muttered to herself as lines of code scrolled before her eyes. Near flawlessly executed, she would trigger the entire system, dismantling the layers of their world so that the storm brewing outside could be the battleground, not the confines of their hearts. A final deep breath, an echo of determination, and in an instant, Zara pressed send. Across the city, Luca stood at the window of his father's penthouse, his pulse thrumming in anticipation as he awaited Zara's calculation. Little did he know that as they battled for freedom, they had also invited danger to come knocking at their doors, where secrets would finally fracture under the weight of truth, leading to revelations that could spiral both their lives into chaos and destruction. For every rise, there must be falls. And in the rain-soaked heart of the storm that they had continuously embraced, they were about to discover the power of sacrifice. Would they emerge whole, stronger than before? Or would the secrets and fractures, the choices made in fear and doubt, tear them apart forever? The bond forged in competition, trust, and passion would hold stakes higher than either had anticipated, bound to collide in an explosion of revelation, redemption, and ultimately, much more than they dared to imagine. And amidst the chaos, they might just find that love was their greatest weapon against the shadows lurking in their pasts, daring them to emerge anew, together. But time was fleeting, and secrets were on the verge of unraveling. As Luca raced against the tides of fate, he had one mission: to seek out Zara and protect the fragile bond they had forged until they could illuminate the darkness surrounding them both. The night deepened around them, danger lurked, and everything was at stake. And yet, in the eye of the storm, beneath the weight of impending doom, lay the slivers of something precious. Hope kindled in the depths of ambition, daring love, and the strength of two hearts woven together, fighting against all odds. In the shifting haze of neon lights and rain-soaked streets, Zara Chen found herself on the precipice of a decision that could upend everything she had fought for. The air buzzed with electricity, a dangerous juxtaposition of desire and dread tangling in her chest. Just days after the reckless alliance she struck with Luca Romano, her world tilted dangerously. The Crimson Clique's watchful eyes had fixed on her, claws extended and threats implicit. They were preparing to draw blood, to reclaim what they believed was theirs. "Zara," a voice broke into her thoughts, sharp and accusing. It was a fellow hacker from the clique. Simon's face was tense with fury, dripping with the rain that plastered his hair to his forehead. "We know what you did at the cafe. This betrayal won't be overlooked." Waves of adrenaline coursed through her, cutting through the remnants of her lingering connection with Luca. Tonight, Zara stood at the crossroads of her past and a potential future with the enemy she found herself drawn to, a bond tinged with danger and treachery. She squared her shoulders, heated conviction rising within her. "I'm not a traitor, Simon. I'm taking control of my own narrative. You're all wrapped in loyalty to a cause that's only going to destroy us." "What? And align yourself with the Romano? You're out of your mind, girl," he barked, rage bubbling in every syllable. "I've seen you. You thrive on power and darkness like they do." "There's nothing noble about that," Zara retorted, her resolve hardening as she stepped toward him. "You're suffocating in a mold that you've built for yourself. I refuse to be another pawn in your sick game." As her words hung in the heavy tension, fear flickered beneath the surface of Simon's bravado. But remorse had no place in a world fueled by violence. "You want to turn your back on us? Fine," he sneered. "You want to walk hand in hand with them? We'll make sure you have nothing left of that fairy tale." With that, he turned, beckoning several followers clad in sleek black gear to close in around her. Zara's heart pounded. Angling for the exit, she knew she needed to escape this tight corner. But the storm outside was nothing compared to the tempest brewing within. She darted past them, racing through the cybercafe and out into the now torrential downpour. The rain kissed her skin with a chill that stoked her spirit, igniting her resolve. Luca was in danger. His empire began crumbling just as swiftly as hers was. And if she didn't act, the lives they sought to protect would be lost. She could feel the hot breath of the clique behind her, pounding on the pavement, threatening to cut short the fragile hope they'd forged. But with every step she took, she drove a further wedge between the narrative she was expected to fulfill and the reality she was crafting with Luca. Meanwhile, Luca paced the stark, glass-walled penthouse, the skyline sprawling beneath him, a cruel twist of fate for a man nestled between worlds colliding. He poured himself a drink, the amber liquid swirling like the chaotic tempest of thoughts racing through his mind. When he thought of Zara, he also thought of everything that risked shattering between them. The looming weight of legacy, the blood-stained path his father blazed, and enemies that circled like vultures. She had offered light and warmth he had forgotten existed amidst the shadows, but with it came the unfiltered truth that each moment with her was one carved from deceit. Would she ever believe in him, he wondered, if all he represented reeked of betrayal? Just then, Nico burst through the door, panting as if having just escaped a war zone. "Luca, you need to know. Zara's been marked by the clique. They're looking for her." Luca's heart plummeted, each beat resonating with a primal urgency. "What do you mean? They're coming for her?" Nico nodded, his expression grave. "They view her as a traitor now. Any ties she had to your world are fodder for their wrath. They'll hunt her down. We have to move fast." "Where is she? Do you know?" Luca demanded, the tremor of fear coursing through him. "No, but I can track her digital footprint." "Do it!" Luca's voice was a razor's edge, slicing through the weight of uncertainty that threatened to consume him. "This isn't just about our legacies anymore. I want her safe." As Nico hurried to tap out a plan on his device, every second felt like a lifetime, a nagging worry worming its way into his thoughts. Drawing in a heavy breath, Luca let the troubling realization settle in. He cared for Zara more than he knew, and now she might pay the price. Zara's legs burned as she sprinted through the rain-slicked streets, the echoes of conversation behind her fading from memory. She needed a plan. Her fingers trembled as she rummaged through her bag, pulling out her laptop and flipping it open. Rain dripped onto the screen, but there was no time to mind it. She launched into code, fingers flying over the keyboard as she accessed a server invaluable information. It was risky, perhaps reckless. Simon and his gang were relentless. She needed to outsmart them before they descended on her. The timer ticked, her heart raced. Just then, the screen flickered in response as notifications raced across the interface. She was close, so close, until a familiar connection pinged in her peripheral vision. Luca's face materialized on the screen, a messenger window calling out to her. "Zara, we need to talk, now!" She almost hesitated, the warmth she had felt just moments ago mixing with uncertainty. "What's happening, Luca? They're coming for me." "I know. I'm sending someone to get you." His voice was urgent. "Meet at the old docks. No one will see you there." "The docks?" she echoed, fear blossoming in her chest. "That place is abandoned. It's a trap." "I won't let anything happen to you. I swear it. Please, we can't lose this chance." Torn between trust and instinct, Zara traded breaths with an adrenaline rush. She could sense the reality of who she was igniting beneath the surface, the independent woman she had always fought to become. But the voice of Luca beckoned her in a way that felt impossible to refuse. When she arrived at the docks, the air felt heavier, alive with unspoken vows and shared hopes. Beneath the weathered beams of the structure, she stood, fingers nervously tapping against her thigh as she awaited his arrival. Zara's heart thundered as she glanced down the silhouetted alleyways, desperate for any sign of him. Each moment felt like an eternity, buzzing with the weight of impending danger. Would Simon and the clique arrive first, or would Luca save her in time? Moments stretched painfully, like empty echoes reverberating in the night. But just as hopelessness crept in, headlights sliced through the dark. A sleek black car halted at the wire gate. Luca emerged, wet but magnificent, the rain cascading off him like the chaos that enveloped them. "Zara!" he yelled, eyes urgent as he ran toward her. "Luca, they're right behind me!" she gasped, panic lacing her voice. "No, no, not if I have anything to say about it." He rushed forward, taking her arm and pulling her toward the waiting car. "Get in, I'll explain everything later." Before Zara could respond, she felt the familiar grip of fear and blur into action as he opened the door to the car, urging her to climb in, his presence the anchor she clung to in the whirlpool of uncertainties. As they sped away from the docks, the tension in the vehicle thickened. Zara released a breath she hadn't realized she was holding, her heart still thrumming wildly against her ribcage. But as the rain blurred the city outside, she turned toward Luca, vulnerable and raw. "Thank you for coming," she murmured, voice barely above a whisper. "But why? Why put yourself at risk for me?" He glanced at her, determination etched on his features. "Because you deserve to be saved, Zara. Not as a hacker infiltrating an empire, not as a pawn in some pointless game, but as you, the fiercely independent woman who hasn't been afraid to stand her ground. You matter to me." His honest words rocked her, a tremor deepening in her chest. "Luca, they're going to come looking for you. They'll retaliate." "Let them," he replied, each word a steady echo of resolve. "We'll face it together, as partners." The bond forged in their perilous dance through the darkness flickered between them, the promise of a future that could transcend the chaos hanging over their heads. As fear mingled with intimacy, they understood that this was their new normal, love smoldering amidst the rubble of their conflicting legacies. Zara leaned closer, shelling away the turbulence in favor of something brighter, the pull of his gaze igniting sparks deep within her. A pleading plea of what if challenged the what's next. But in that moment, everything felt fragile, hanging on the cusp of transformation. "This could all end badly, you know," she warned, her voice trembling with both excitement and apprehension.
"Maybe," he acknowledged, the bold assurance radiating from him. "But I'm not giving up on us. I refuse to let the past dictate our future." Amidst the storm, a deep rumble of conflict above, they shared a quiet moment where ambiguity lost its hold, revealing a shared belief that love, no matter how unlikely, could hold the power to weather any storm. In the aftermath of moments shared, Zara made a choice. It was time to intertwine her battle with his, for they were no longer alone, soldiers bonded in fraught loyalty. Summoning their hesitations, they arrived back at the Romanos' tall fortress, where shadows poured over potential lessons learned, decisions made, and consequences awaited. But the undeniable chemistry lingered, a flicker of light amid the confounding dark. As they stepped into the grand entryway of the Romano estate, Luca turned to face her, unwavering. "Whatever comes next, we'll face it united, together." "You understand what that means, right?" she said softly, her heart thudding heavily. "You could lose everything, your family, your legacy. And perhaps I could gain something even more valuable," he replied, eyes blazing with determination. Zara felt the weight of the moment start to crest, rushing against the tide of uncertainty weaving through her. The strength they forged was a paradox, woven from shared compromise, blooming amidst contradiction and desire. "Then let's unwrite the rules of our fate," she whispered, feeling the softness of that paradox nestle itself deep within her soul. With that, they pressed on, clasping what was left of their vulnerability and strength. Together, they took those first uncertain steps into a new reality, a testament to love's enduring power. The embrace of the storm coursed around them, but in the eye of that tempest spoke the whispers of faith that still held sway. It was a gamble for sure, but in a world soaked with shadows, perhaps they were ready to light a path that promised a new destiny, caught somewhere between echoes of the past and the promise of tomorrow's dawn. Zara and Luca stood facing each other in the grand entryway of the Romano estate, a torrent of emotions cascading between them, the aftermath of the storm swirling in their hearts. The ornate walls, adorned with the weight of family history, stood witness to the precarious bond they were forging, a resilience born from vulnerability, ambition, and a shared defiance against the legacies that sought to bind them. As they stepped further inside, the dimly lit room seemed to pulse with a life of its own, every shadow whispering of the past, yet hinting at a future fueled by the strength they'd drawn from one another. The air was thick with tension, but it was alive with something else too, hope. "Where do we start?" Zara breathed, using the moment to steady her racing heart. Luca took a deep breath, grounding himself in the present. "We need to get your hacking team involved. They might be planning something big against us, now that they know you've connected with me. We need a strategy to counter whatever they're plotting." "And you think your father will let you just walk away from his plans?" she challenged, her gaze searching his. Beneath her tough exterior, uncertainty pulsed like a whispered warning. "Honestly," he rubbed the back of his neck, visibly torn. "He doesn't know I'm in this with you yet. I have to navigate those treacherous waters, but I won't let my family dictate my future. I won't repeat their mistakes." Zara felt a warmth blooming within her chest. Seeing Luca's determination reinforced her own. "And I want to help. If we can expose the vulnerabilities in their infrastructure while facing your father head-on, we can reveal their weaknesses." "Good plan, but we need to be careful," he murmured, taking her hand, the warmth of his touch igniting a spark that surged through them both. "The more we dig, the more risk we invite." Their eyes locked, an understanding passing between them, rife with the weight of the uncharted territory they were about to tread. "Whatever happens, we have to promise each other no secrets," Zara said firmly, needing assurance, desperate to protect this fragile bond they'd earned through shared struggles. "Agreed," Luca nodded, his expression grave yet committed. "No secrets." Suddenly, a voice boomed behind them, slicing through the air. "Luca!" It was his father, a towering presence that filled the room with an oppressive aura, even without uttering a word. Zara felt the energy shift, tension snaking around them. Luca was pulled into the orbit of his family, the legacy that had created walls between them. The patriarch appeared formidable, lined with experience, and years spent navigating the murky waters of power and betrayal. "Father," Luca murmured, steadying himself, torn between the past and the choices before him. "What have you been doing, mingling with the lessers in our territory? Your duties demand your attention, not trifles." The elder Romano's tone dripped with authority, perceptibly disdainful at the thought of Lucas growing ties with someone outside their world. Zara resisted the urge to shield herself, forcing her chin up, standing tall beside Luca. "I'm not a trifling matter. I'm here as an ally, seeking to protect this family from real threats." Mr. Romano evaluated her, eyes narrowing in suspicion. "A hacker? A child of the streets? Hardly an ally worth considering, son. This is not a game." Luca could feel the ground beneath him shifting. She's not just anyone. She's on the front lines of a war this family has invited through its negligence. "I will not have you explain. I will not have you jeopardizing this house for some reckless whim, Luca." His father's voice thundered, cutting him off. "Then it's not just a whim. It's my choice, and I—" The young Romano's voice wavered.
his confidence braiding strength with uncertainty. It was time to challenge the status quo. Zara took a step forward, feeling an urgency to stand side by side with Luca against the oppressive father that sought to tear them apart. "Your decisions have consequences, Mr. Romano. The very streets have darker plans for your family, and they're coming to collect." The elder's laughter resonated with mockery. "You believe this streetwise girl can offer anything but a false hope?" Luca felt anger course through him. This is exactly the arrogance that has put us in danger. We need to be smarter, more strategic. We can't bury our heads in the sand. "You would defy your lineage over a simple-minded notion?" The elder scoffed, disdain encasing each word. "I've sacrificed blood for this empire. Sacrifices you seem willing to throw away for this relationship." But as anger built, Zara felt the urgency in her heart spike, a revelation dawning. "If you continue to disregard the potential your son possesses, if you let the bitterness of tradition cloud your judgment, you will lose everything," she warned, her voice unwavering. "You might think you're invulnerable in this world, but it can all come crumbling down in an instant." The elder's gaze flickered, curiosity mixing with caution, while skepticism deepened further. "And what would you know about our world? You have fought through the gutters, while we have risen above them." "That's precisely why I have something valuable to bring to the table," she replied boldly, feeling the heat of determination wash over her. "Enough, Mr. Romano boomed, finally redirecting his attention to both of them, his penetrating gaze settling over them like a storm gathering intensity. "Luca, you will continue doing what is required, and you, girl—" "Stop, right there!" Luca interrupted, a surge of rebellion breaking free from his restrained composure. "You will not dictate my life any longer. I'm taking the reins of my future, together with Zara. You may not approve, but I refuse to let fear dictate my choices." The room fell silent, the air heavy with tension. Zara felt a mix of ferocity and disbelief around them, bracing against the inevitable storm that could unleash. This was a fracture, a shift of power, and the foreboding weight of the future loomed ahead. "And if I refuse," Mr. Romano said, his cultivated rage and icy lace deepening with every word, "if I demand you remove this distraction from my life." Luca turned to Zara, their eyes meeting, the connection calling upon the unyielding bond they'd forged in tumult. She felt the weight settle, knowing what was at stake, their futures entwined in a partnership that no one could sever. "There's no removing me, sir," she replied firmly, a flicker of confidence shining through. "Neither of us will be subject to your dictations. This is a new era, and your dominance is being challenged." The tension now reached a fever pitch, and in a strange way, Zara could sense the undercurrent of change, electric in the air. Luca stepped bravely forward, resolving to take the next step. "We won't allow you to hurt her or manipulate our connection," he declared with newfound conviction, voice steadying even as uncertainty trembled beneath the surface. "If you intend to tear us apart, you will force me to choose sides, and I refuse to be pitted against her. I choose my own fate, and I won't be beholden to an empire built on ashes." "Luca," Zara's breath caught, a hope laced with uncertainty flickering between them. Her heart danced on the precarious edge of possibility, seeing the way his shoulders squared, meeting his father's hostility head-on. "Consider this a declaration," Luca continued, unwavering. This was the young man he had become. If you think the world you built can sustain under pressure without change, you are mistaken. Together, we'll reveal your vulnerabilities to your enemies. This strategic alliance will forge a new power that you'll struggle to contain. The elder's expression darkened pathos, simmering in a mix of wrath and betrayal as he surveyed the two of them standing united. You think you can walk away with no consequences? You'll come to regret this. We're fully aware of the stakes, Zara spoke resolutely, meeting his icy glare with unwavering defiance. We'll stand together regardless of the threat. You've conditioned this family to rely on fear. We've chosen to combat it with hope. Foolishness, Mr. Romano spat, his anger boiling over as he stormed to the door, his powerful figure reflecting the weight of centuries of traditions, and yet a crack formed in his rancorous disposition. For the first time, doubt seeped through his bravado as he turned back, eyes narrowing once more. Mark my words, if you pursue this folly, you will not escape unscathed. I'll see to it. As he strode out, exiting the room in a cloud of discontent, the silence left in his absence felt heavy in Zara's chest. Luca turned to her, tension lighting the air between them once more. But he's wrong, Luca murmured softly, stepping closer yet again. We'll show him there's another way, the potential of power through collaboration, not oppression. That's the plan, Zara breathed, her heart pounding with anticipation, emboldened by his resolve despite the storm swirling about them. I'm ready, he asserted, the warmth of his hand wrapping around hers. Together. In that moment, they embraced the beauty of uncertainty, the strength of unity tethering between them, grounding each other amid the tempest threatening their future. They felt the burgeoning power of their connection as they faced the obstacles ahead, a confrontation between family legacies, emerging love, and the volatile world crafted upon the precipice of fear. As the shimmering fates awaited them, they both knew they would face every challenge alongside one another, turning the tides against predecessors who clung to tradition while breathing life into a new dawn. A union built on trust, entwined with love and resilience. Moving forward, they lemoed into the future, united against whatever storms awaited them, ready to forge their own path, daring enough to write their own legacy in a world flooded with darkness. In the midst of the storm, the fusion of their spirits awaited a new beginning, where ambitions could soar, hearts aflame, forging a destiny of limitless potential. The flicker of love was no longer just a promise. It was a declaration of war against the shadows, unwavering and brimming with hope. A few days later, the stage was set for their daring plan, an infiltration of the Crimson Clique's doings, a delicate chess match played against a backdrop of shifting alliances. Zara stood at her terminal, fingers gliding over her keyboard with the ease of an artist brushing strokes on a canvas.